The Suikoden anime is only 4 months away and we're all overflowing with excitement. For many years we all thought Suikoden was dead in the water, but it seems we're entering a new golden age for the series with the remasters, the museums, the new merchandise, the stage play, the Starleap manga, the upcoming Starleap game, the Suikoden 2 anime and the Suikoden 2 anime manga adaptation on the way. Konami dropped the first trailer for the anime back in March and the second trailer dropped at the Anime Expo in Los Angeles on July 4th. They've also been dropping a lot of promotional material over on their Suikoden Anime X account. In this video, I want to go over everything we know about the anime so far. I'm going to be talking about the trailers, the interviews, and the promotional material Konami have released, as well as going over fan questions and discussing and speculating about what they could do in the anime by comparing it to the game and the novel. This is going to be a long video, and obviously it goes without saying that the conversations we'll be having in this video and in the comment section will be veering into heavy spoiler territory. So if the anime is going to be your first time experiencing the story, maybe it's best to tune out here as you will be spoiled if you watch this video. Again, this video will contain major spoilers, so if you watch beyond this point, it's your own fault. First, let's very quickly skim over the basics. The anime is being developed in-house at Konami Animation, who previously made the Suikoden animated music video. Following the release of the second trailer, the Suikoden anime website stated that the anime was set to air October 3rd, but 3 days later that date has now been removed and it simply says October. No release date has been confirmed outside of Japan yet, though there is an English website for the anime, so an international release will be coming. The first episode will be a 60-minute special, and the first 3 episodes are planned to release in select theaters across Japan beginning August 21st. The opening theme, Kaneshimi Sayo Tonobite, is performed by Amazurashi. Now that we have the basics out of the way, let's go over some of the interviews they've held with Japanese media sites over the last year, as these interviews reveal some important information about how the anime will be handled and presented and how it will compare to the game. These interviews will answer some questions that people have, and they'll probably crush some of your hopes about your favourite characters. In an interview with Famitsu, series producer Rui Naito confirmed that the anime will be getting more than 1 season, as 1 season isn't enough to tell Ryu and Joey's full story. They haven't specified exactly how many seasons the anime will be getting, nor how many episodes will be in each season. All they've said is that it's going to take more than 1 season to tell their full story. Do they mean 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons? It's a little hard to speculate about how they'll pace the anime or how much they'll cover per season without knowing the episode or season count, but since they have revealed voice actors for Shu and the Gary's Blight, and they've shown Shu in the most recent trailer as well as the laundry hanging out to dry, surely the first season will cover up to at least North Window. And there's no way they could cover that much content in a single core season of 10 to 12 episodes, so it's got to be a double core 20 plus episode season. If not, it'll be too fast paced. How do you guys hope they'll handle it? Do you want a no nonsense short and sweet anime without the fluff and filler with 12 episode seasons? Or do you want that 20 plus episode season where they cover as much as possible? Next, I'm going to read several questions and answers in a row as they're all on the same topic. In that same interview with Famitsu, Rui Naito revealed that they want the anime to appeal to a wide audience, including those who have never played the game, so they won't simply be reproducing the game. Then in an interview with Dengeki Online, he said they've come to realize that the context of games and anime are different. Naturally, if we were to try to express everything from the game in anime form, no matter how much time we had, it wouldn't be enough. Within the limited runtime of anime, it's impossible to reproduce the original work exactly as it was. We're trying to figure out how to extract the core of the story and turn it into a narrative that is unique to anime. While respecting the story of the original game, we're also taking on new challenges and trying different approaches to convey the best aspects within the medium of anime. And in that same interview with Dengeki, the Ryu voice actor Toshiki Kumagai said, "I also feel that fans are really looking forward to the possibility that the anime will depict parts that were not told or were unclear in the game." And in a separate interview with Famitsu, the anime's director Yuzo Sato stated they were having discussions about whether or not to include certain scenes from the game or whether they should try to portray them from a new perspective unique to anime. He also said they're aiming to create a work that allows viewers to confirm what they've experienced in the game through the anime and also give them a glimpse into what was happening behind the scenes. Basically what they're saying is if you're expecting a straight up one-to-one copy of the game beat for beat, scene for scene, you're going to be disappointed. Much like how the Suikoden 2 novel was an alternate telling of the game's story, a different interpretation of the story, the anime is also going to have its own take on the story while respecting and staying true to the core story of the game. So the core story will be the same, but you will see new scenes that weren't in the game. You will see things from other characters' perspectives and not just Ryu's. So there may be some game scenes completely cut out, or the game scenes may be altered or expanded on to make the story flow better, like how the novel handled things. Games and anime are two very different mediums for storytelling. In the games, it's easy to backtrack to recruit characters and do subplots, but you're not going to see that kind of thing in the anime. Instead of Ryu or Ryu running around individually recruiting everyone, many of the characters may show up as volunteers off screen like they did in the novel. Or when Ryu goes to recruit Sai to fix the fire spears, it's possible that Tomo may already be there with her father and she tags along with him. So you may see events combine like that to save time. And don't be shocked if you see recruitment quests like Tengar Hicks's or subplots like Kaio's cut out entirely. Assuming the average runtime of 30 minutes, minus ads, intro, outro and the usual recap at the start, you're looking at about 18 minutes per episode. That doesn't give them nearly enough time to cover every little thing that happens in the game. It won't be an exact one-to-one copy, it'll be its own take on the story. And I know some people will be concerned about Rui Naito's comments about trying to appeal to a wide audience, but the Suikoden fandom is an aging fandom. It's been 20 years since the last mainline game released. Not to call any of you out, but according to my channel's analytics, about 3/4 of you are in your 40s and 50s. Konami need to attract a younger audience for the longevity of the series, which is why in the latest trailer you see Ryu and Joey parkouring around defying the laws of physics like in your typical shonen anime. It's what appeals to the youth. The anime is unlikely to be as grounded as the game was. Then in an interview with Famitsu, Yuzo Sato was asked, "One of the selling points of Suikoden is that it features as many as 108 companions. Will all of them appear in the anime?" He responded, "There's been talk that this is simply too difficult. However, we do want to include them, even if only briefly. It's difficult to have everyone appear with lines, but we're thinking of ways to include them in some form, such as in the opening, ending, or eye-catching segments." Then in a follow-up question, he was asked about party compositions and how the player brings characters with them. Yuzo Sato responded, "The idea is that players won't be forming parties, however, we do want characters who are supposed to be in specific locations to appear in those areas." I'm sure his answer will be disappointing to many of you who are hoping your favourites would get their moment in the spotlight. All of the optional and secondary characters, even the fan favourites like Ulan, Genshu, Wakaba, Meg and others, may be relegated to being background characters. You'll possibly see them in the intro and the outro, you'll see them in the background of scenes at headquarters and where they were in the game. You might even see them among the soldiers in war battles, but if you're expecting them to have big memorable moments, or to have big speaking roles, or to play important parts in the story, you're probably setting yourself up for disappointment. You also won't be seeing your random ragtag groups tagging along with Ryu wherever he goes. It appears it's strictly going to be main story related characters. For example, when Ryu runs from the mercenary fortress after it's captured by Highland, it's likely just going to be him, Joey, Nanami and Palika instead of them plus 3 random characters. It sounds as if they're keeping it strictly to the main cast to help streamline the story. Then in the final interview question of importance, anime director Yuzo Sato said in an interview with Dengeki that they can't simply use the game's soundtrack as is. They've hired Koji Nakamura to create an original soundtrack for the anime, but he will be arranging music from the game and working it in, so we will hear some familiar pieces. I'm sure that'll be disappointing to some of you who love Miki Higashino's work, but it is what it is. And that's the interviews out of the way with. Now let's go over some questions people have after seeing the trailers and promotional material. A common question I've seen pop up from people who've watched the trailers is, who the hell is this guy standing next to Raud? He wasn't in the game and he doesn't appear to be anyone from the short stories, the novel or the manga. He's a completely original character designed for the anime. He reeks of generic anime bad guy, and I think there's a reason they've created this character for the anime. If you look at the notable characters the Highland Kingdom has, there's not a whole lot of outright bad people. Luca Blight, the Mad Prince of Highland, yeah, he's as evil as they come. Igaries and Gilia Blight, Han Cunningham, Kiba and Klaus Windermere, Colgan and Seed, none of them are bad people. Solon G, he's a pompous, prideful and ambitious ass who loyally serves his country, but he's not evil. Raud, he's done some horrible, unforgivable things and the audience will hate him just as we do, but there's depth to his character. Every horrible act he commits is done with the purpose of advancing his career to earn enough money to cure his sister's blindness. That doesn't absolve him of all the evil things he's done, but he's not outright evil for the sake of being evil. But will the anime explore that depth? Lucia, the audience will thirst for her when she first appears, but they'll soon sympathize with her too. Nothing about her is evil. Uber, many fans only care about him because of his appearance. If you look past his appearance, he's a non-entity. He does nothing and contributes nothing to the story. Unless they actually give him something to do in the anime and his role is bigger than it was in the game, then there's no reason for the audience to care about him. Unless of course they're pulled in by the aura of his appearance like many of the game's fans were. So with the exception of Luca and Raud, and possibly to an extent Solange because his attitude will rub people the wrong way, who is there for the audience to actually hate and root against? Especially in the early portion of the story where Highlander depicted as the clear bad guys. This guy's armour is identical to Raud's. I suspect he's going to be a low to mid-level officer like Raud. He could possibly be Raud's subordinate and sub-commander of the Unicorn Brigade. Think of him as a sort of starter villain. He'll likely delight in all the horrible things Luca is doing. He'll probably be the thorn in Ryu's side for the early episodes until he's inevitably defeated or killed off by Luca after several failures. He'll be there to help viewers hate Highland until they realise the situation is far more complex than the beginning lets on. At least that's my guess. Another question some people want to know the answer to is how will the anime handle the Kasumi and Valeria choice, which in turn affects Mondo and Sasuke's appearance. Will they follow the game? Will they go the route of the novel? Will they try to blend the two together, or will they go a completely different route? In the game, Sheena shows up and suggests you ally with the Tauren Republic, so you travel there to seek an alliance to fight against Luca Blight. The New Alliance army and the Tauren Republic forge an alliance, and President LePont lends them 5,000 men and gives you the choice of either Valeria or Kasumi to lead them. If you choose Kasumi, it allows you to recruit Mondo and Sasuke much earlier. Within the novel, Ryu never travelled to the Tauren Republic. While he was in Matilda trying to form an alliance with the Matilda Knights, Shu sent an envoy to Tauren. When Ryu returned from Matilda, Shu introduced him to Valeria, who President LePont ordered to act as their representative. He also sent Sheena along with her. The whole thing happened off-screen, if you will. Then after Luca was defeated, and after recapturing Green Hill, Sheena recruited Kasumi, who brought Mondo and Sasuke along with her. When you think about it, Valeria makes more sense to lead the Tauren forces. She has a history of military service, and she's one of the Tauren Republic's great generals. Kasumi is a ninja, she's a scout, she's not a soldier, she's not a general, she has no experience commanding men on the battlefield. Of the two, Valeria is the more logical choice to serve as both a representative of Tauren and to lead its forces. The question is, how will the anime handle it? They're two fan favourites, but Kasumi probably edges out Valeria in popularity because of her connection to MacDull. If they only include one, they're going to upset a good chunk of people who are bigger fans of the other. They're in a bit of a tough spot with that choice, and they're going to have to find a way to work both of them into the story. Instead of LePont giving Ryu a choice, he could simply send them both and then have Kasumi suggest stopping by Rokaku to seek their aid to recruit Mondo and Sasuke, as it's on the path back anyway. Valeria can lead the Tauren troops in battle, and they can give Kasumi, Mondo and Sasuke something important to do, like rescuing Ridley when he's captured by Highland at Radit. And some people are wondering, will they include MacDull as well? Many of you would love to see MacDull appear and for him to share a moment with Kasumi on screen. If you haven't played the games before and you're still for some reason this deep in a spoiler-heavy discussion on the anime, Tyr MacDull was the main character from Suikoden 1. Tyr's appearance in Suikoden 2 was more of a fan service moment. If he appears in the anime in any capacity, it'll get fans buzzing, but truthfully his appearance contributed nothing to the actual story in the game, so don't be surprised if he doesn't appear at all in the anime. But if he does appear, how could they handle it? As you know, his appearance in the game is an optional subplot that you had to do some backtracking to do. It wouldn't make sense to do an exact copy of how it happened in the game, and they've already said the anime will be handled differently and it'll be too hard to depict every character. Maybe they'll give him a little background cameo in Banner Village as Ryu and his group are passing through on their way to Tauren. Kind of a blink and you'll miss it situation with him and Gremio fishing in the background. Or perhaps they'll take some inspiration from how it was handled in the Suikoden 2 novel, which was very different from the game. Tyrion Gremio's appearance was worked into the Tinto storyline. They basically took George Prime's role from the game during the optional route where Ryu runs away and they helped him regain his resolve. That could be one way of doing it, but that would upset the George Prime fans. Some people may also be wondering if they'll include Boris in the anime. In the game, whether Ridley lives or dies and Boris appears is entirely up to the choices you make. But as I just said, in the novel, Ryu ran away in Tinto, which resulted in Ridley's death, and shortly after, his son Boris came to take his place as the general of the Two River Army. And now you're worried they may kill off Ridley in the anime, but they'd have to if they want to introduce Boris. I hope they do go with the choice of Ryu running away during the Tinto storyline in the anime. It makes him feel real and relatable. He's a 15 or 16-year-old kid. He's got the pressure of leading an army, he sees the horrors of war up close, he's got the hopes of an entire country on his shoulders. He has a moment of doubt and runs away, and one of his best generals and many of his men die as a consequence. You need some impactful, emotional moments like that in the show. You need your hero to face hardships. It's not much of a war if every big-name character makes it through unscathed. I'll be disappointed if they play it safe and don't kill off Ridley. And a question I have, and it's something I've been wondering for a while now, will they include Nash in the anime? A decent chunk of Nash's story in Suikoden Volume 1 took place in the city-states during the first third or so of Suikoden 2. Now I know they won't include the vast majority of that in the anime, but I'd love to see them try and work in some of his smaller scenes or to give him a small cameo in the show. They could have him guarding the supply tent in the Highland camp while Ryu and Joey are infiltrating it. They probably won't show his scenes with Joey and Luca in the camp as they happen, as that'd spoil a major plot twist for new fans. But if they had a flashback to that in a later episode to show why Joey made the choices he did, I think having Nash make a big appearance like that in one episode would have fans going wild. He's one of the most popular characters in the series, and it'd be a real missed opportunity if they didn't at least try to work him in somehow, even if it was just a cameo. Will they? I don't know, but I've got my fingers crossed that they do. And finally, let's talk about the trailers and the promotional material. I probably should have covered this part first. Let's start with the first trailer. This part with Ryu and Joey talking to Flick and Victor seems to be a mesh of two different scenes. The scene where they reveal they're members of the Highland Unicorn Brigade, and the scene where they want to fight alongside them against Highland, where Ryu duels Flick. Now I could be wrong, but I think this shot of Joey practicing in the trailer is taking place at Palika's house in Toto Village. Konami revealed a drawing of her house over on the Suikoden Anime X account. There are some small differences in the house between the drawing they revealed and the final version in the trailer, but it looks almost identical. The stack of firewood on the left side of the house, the window and the wooden beams all align, but it's missing the attic window and the chimney has been moved to the other side of the house. But everything else matches up, even the trees in the background. They also revealed a sketch of Toto Village on their X account too. Palika's house matches up with this house at the top of the village, with the shrine housing the bright shield and black sword runes a bit further in past the trees. And as you've probably noticed from the image, Toto Village looks very different from how it does in the game. This part where they introduce Nanami is interesting to me. Look at what's happening behind her. Alex is protecting Palika in what looks to be some kind of foggy forest. Surely they couldn't be bringing Palika with them into the Sindar ruins. Why would they bring Palika with them to somewhere so dangerous instead of leaving her at the inn with Hilda and Pete? Then again, they brought Palika with them to Green Hill on a covert infiltration and extraction mission, so how could this be any worse? But in the novel, the Sindar ruins were cut out. Ryu treated some injured soldiers at White Deer Inn and they gave him their entry pass to Muse. Then we got some shots of the mercenary fortress and some of the characters there. I think the mercenary fortress looks so much better in the anime than it did in the game, and the anime has done a much better job of depicting the fort's location. It's in a very defensible position high up on a forested hill, the wall is mostly stone, and it even has a garden where they grow food. They released an image of the mercenary fortress over on their X account too, and you can see some small farming settlements at the bottom of the hill. It gives you a much better idea of how the fort is positioned in the game and why they were able to hold out against Highland's first assault. I do like the changes they've made to the appearance of Victor's mercenaries. In the game they looked like Boy Scouts. They wore sharp blue sleeve shirts, blue shorts, black boots and a green bandana with a very basic breastplate that only covered their front. Not the type of thing you'd expect soldiers to wear. In the anime they're wearing something more appropriate for soldiers. They're actually wearing armor. They're wearing chest plates that also protects their upper back, they've got shoulder pads and helmets. The colours aren't very exciting, but it's very Victorish with the brown and yellow. They actually look like soldiers in the anime, which is a nice change. Cole, however, still seems to be dressed similarly to how he was in the game. Gengen looks a little off. There's nothing wrong with his design, I'm not saying it's bad, but doesn't his face seem a little flat? They've cutified him even more than he already was. And doesn't my boy Mukumuku look adorable? He's not as cute as his appearance from the game, maybe it's the bushy old man eyebrows they gave him, but he's still cute as hell. I hope we get to see him kick some ass though, and he's not just there to be the adorable little baby for fans to dote over so Konami can sell them Mukumuku merchandise. Then there's some quick shots of some characters. I think they gave Balgan a shirt because animating his jiggly belly and the chains he wore would be too much of a pain. Then the first trailer ends with some beautiful shots of Luca Blight standing in Ryubei village as it burns to the ground. He looks terrifying standing in the flames while the mercenary fortress burns to the ground, and I cannot wait for those scenes. If anyone was wondering, yes, the Die Pig scene should still be in the anime. Konami released some scene readings a couple of months back with the voice actors, and one of them was the Die Pig scene. And just recently, Konami released a second trailer for the anime. Victor is a beast. He just stomps on Joey's staff to block his attack, and he's not even looking at Ryu to block his tonfa. Flick is standing in the back watching, but it looks like he's slowly walking forward. Either this is some kind of training scene, or it's possibly Ryu and Joey fighting Victor in their attempt to escape after being imprisoned. Then there's a pretty cool shot of Ryu and Joey jumping off the cliff at Tenzan Pass, dodging some arrows from the Highland soldiers. Now this is the only part of the trailers that threw me a little. Ryu and Joey are parkouring around the mercenary fortress at super speed like they're straight out of an episode of Naruto or some Chinese martial arts movie. From the reactions I've seen, this was either a love it or hate it moment for people watching the trailer. But this is what I was saying earlier, they're trying to appeal to a younger audience, so we probably will see more of this. I don't hate it, but I think it feels out of place in the Suikoden world. And don't bring up the Unite attacks, those animations are mostly just for visual fun. This parkouring stuff is what made the ninja characters feel special with their Shrike and Mayfly runes. I hope this isn't a sign that everyone is going to be capable of movements like this. I love this part of the trailer. Flick gets a pretty cool moment fighting a 2v1 against Kulgan and Seed, which I suspect may be taking place during the first battle at the Mercenary Fortress. The scene gives me Nash vibes from the Suikoden opening where he was fighting a 2v1 against Kulgan and Seed. I can't wait to see the full scene when it releases. Then we're back to the Highland soldiers firing arrows at Ryu and Joey as they leap off Tenzan Pass, a shot of them with Leknot as they get their runes, followed by some quick shots of several characters. With the trailers out of the way, let's look over the promotional material they released over on the Suikoden Anime X account. They've revealed drawings of Muse City, Radit, Two River, Green Hill and Lorenwi, and they're all much bigger and very different from how they appeared in the game. Muse is quite a bit bigger than it was depicted in the game, and the city layout is very different from what we're familiar with. Obviously, you can see City Hall at the back and Joustin Hill behind it, but nothing else is recognisable. Radit Town also looks very different from the game. In the game, the town was a tiny little plush shape with a handful of houses, but in the anime it's significantly bigger. The most notable changes are that Shu's mansion is now on the north side of the town instead of being in the east near the bridge, and the bridge, the pier and the sluice gates are now 3 separate locations instead of being merged into one like they were in the game. If you're wondering how that'll affect the scene where Shu tosses the coin into the water, it probably shouldn't. Most sluice gates have a crossing like a bridge anyway. Looking at the picture, I can't figure out where Freed's house is supposed to be though. In the game, he had a house with a big garden on the south side of town. Maybe this house here. The houses are so cramped together it's hard to tell, but that's the only sizable house with a garden and a wall that I can see from this picture. I'm also curious to see if they drop a little short story book reference and maybe name one of the inns in town the Lavender Village Inn as a little nod to Richmond's story. Next up is Two River, which is massive compared to the game. The entrance is now on the south side of the city instead of on the east side. A small stream now runs through the centre of the city, leading to the river between districts. They also gave us a close-up look at City Hall, and I know some of you are hoping Fitcher receives his 100 lashes. The Winged Horde settlement on the centre island is larger than I expected. They have their main settlement, and then there's a few smaller scattered settlements in different places. Then on the far side we have quite a sizable Cobalt settlement. Next we've got Green Hill. Again, Green Hill looks significantly larger than it did in the game, and I love the new design. New Leaf Academy also looks very different and much more impressive. I think all of the city and town redesigns in the anime are massive improvements over their appearances in the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final results. Next, we've got a picture of Lorenwi. As you'd expect of Highland, it's very structured, very organised, it's uniform. Identical buildings all bunched up together and lined up in neat rows. The palace looks like a bitch to siege. Look at all those layers of walls you've got to break through. First, you've got a thick outer wall protecting the city. Then you've got an inner wall protecting a bridge and the moat. Then on the other side of the bridge, you've got 3 more layers of walls. It has me wondering how they're going to do the final battle in the anime. If they make it a siege like it was in the game, then that's going to be brutal. Getting through the front gate alone will be hell, but getting through the second gate and having to cross that lone bridge to the palace, that's a meat grinder. They could do something similar to the novel for the final battle and have Han Cunningham ride out to protect the gate, which was a moronic move, but it ended the battle fast. They also released a few images of the interior and exterior of Lorenwi Palace. Then we got a little glimpse of the Unicorn Brigade's camp on Tenzan Pass. I cannot wait to see how all of the new fans are going to react to seeing what happens at the very beginning of the show. I wonder if they'll include Solace from the novel. He was a fellow member of the Unicorn Brigade that looked up to Ryu and Joey. His arm was cut off during the ambush on their camp. Ryu tried to save him, but a soldier ended up killing him. It would make that opening episode hit harder if we got to see some of their name friends die instead of a bunch of no-name randoms. It'd have a bigger emotional impact on new fans who are seeing it happen for the first time. Then we got a little glimpse of the Highland camp. Gillia's tent is there in the centre, and I'm assuming these are the supply tents. We also got a look at Luca's tent a little further into the camp. Now I'll quickly skim over these next few pictures they released. Ryubei villagers, Toto villagers, a horse, a boar, a chicken, Ryu, Joey, Nanami. Also, we'd previously been given a height for Ryu of 164 centimeters when they released a statue of him for sale, but now thanks to some art at the Anime Expo in Japan, we also have official heights for some of the other Suikoden 2 characters. Luke is 165 centimeters, Victor is 186 centimeters, Flick is 178 centimeters, Nanami is 156 centimeters, Kalika is 104 centimeters, Ryu is 164 centimeters, Joey is 175 centimeters, Mukumuku is 63 centimeters if you count by his head, or 64 centimeters if you count by the tip of his ears, and Luca is 195 centimeters. And adding this in while editing the video, they also released a promotional image of the interior of the Mercenary Fortress. I'm sure you'll recognise there are some differences from the game, and they also gave us a close-up look of Shu's mansion in Radit. And that's it for the promotional sneak peeks they've released. I could ramble for another half hour just by picking apart the trailer and making comparisons to the game and novel, but I won't. I've yapped enough for one video. Maybe I'll make a dedicated video detailing the differences between the game and the novel. Anyway, do you like what you've seen of the trailers so far? How many seasons are you hoping for, and how would you divide them up? What do you think about the changes they've made to the towns and cities? Do you like their new, bigger appearances? How are you hoping they'll handle the Valerian Kasumi chase? Do you want Ridley to die and for Boris to appear, or would you prefer they keep Ridley alive? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.